Good morning, MoB family. Hello, hello. Hope everyone is doing well. Let's see who's coming in. Hello, everybody. Let me make sure I can respond to the comments. Good morning, Chris Mendoza, and everyone on YouTube. Good morning. Hello, Marie. Good morning. I think it's morning. Remember I just say good morning? You guys apply whatever time zone you're in. Good morning, Facebook user who has no name. Anthony, good morning. Let's see. Oh, good evening, Marie, actually. Yes, good evening. Jeanette, good, very, very, very early morning. Good morning. Linda, good morning. Heather, good morning. Yeah, that opening music is some of William's best, but I don't know. Some of the new tracks, we gotta find a way. I gotta find a way to put them in with the logo or something so we can kind of do the same thing. Or maybe have it as the closing. That would be awesome too. So we could do that. Good morning, Audrey. Welcome. Would I like a cup of Java? I already have a cup of Java. I'm already way ahead of you, Marie. Yeah, Streamer has an option where you can put audio in the background, so it's good. 3:30, that's when I get up, Jeanette. So it's very early for sure. Yeah, that's when I get up. I do some kettlebells. I'll go walk for 4 miles. Yeah, that's usually my start time. Late for me is like 4 o'clock, 4 in the morning. That's late. Oh my God, my face is like killing me. This is Scruff. Scruff coming in. Yeesh. Okay, let me put the link so people can go allow names. This is the link. Please go there and let StreamYard have permission to post your name here. How many do we have? Oh, let's 12 people here. Let's start with the shout outs. I'm not flying solo here, but Dolly's busy doing stuff in other parts of the house. So she's gonna be kind of floating in and out. Excuse me. Oh man, it's Scruffy McScruff today. I'm trying to let it grow in, but I was telling Chris earlier, this is every time I forget this stage of the growth, which is like, ouch. It's not pain, but it's just annoying. All right, so shout outs everyone on YouTube. Hello, everyone on YouTube. If you haven't found us on YouTube, you can follow us at Bin Peaches Publishing. I believe also StoryTeller. So don't forget to hit the subscribe, like, and that notification bell so you can always be notified when we're going to have our episodes, our MoB Kaffeeklatsch episodes. That way you can clatch with us. She'll see that in a moment, Maria. I think she's in the kitchen right now, doing something with Valkyrie number 1, who's not feeling well and is home from school today. And she didn't want to even make it appear like a cameo. So I could just use my voice, and you have to at least show your face. It's like, no, I don't want to show that face. It's like, fine. All right, on Instagram, we are at Bitten Peaches, at Bitten Peaches. Marie says hello.
Hello, Marie.
We're at Bitten Peaches, so find us there. I have been posting up some excerpts from the new books from, I want to say, Blood Lessons and Broken Magic, but I have been posting up some other things too, but definitely those 2 books have been posted. Let's see, what else we got? Zazzle, we have swag, so go get the swag on Zazzle. We are at M&S. Our lead designer has taken a little bit of a break, but she'll be jumping into some designs shortly. Give her some time. She's working on some stuff. So we are EMANDES at Zazzle.com. You can find us. Welcome, Jim. Let's see, Patreon. We have new patrons. So we have Heidi Wolf. So she joined in, and I think, isn't Joe from before? No, Joe's recent. Joe Durham. So welcome, Heidi and Joe, to our Patreon. Awesome, thank you. Our new story for Patreon, which I'm kind of already finishing off. It's pretty awesome. It's March 31st, because every 3 months there's a new story. It's a story that you cannot get anywhere else. The last one was Jav Ambrosia, which is really fun to write. The new one is going to be called The Circle, and it's not as funny as Jav Ambrosia. It's a little bit more exciting and kind of like has that little twist at the end. But if you want to read those stories, and there's a few stories now on Patreon. Do we know how many stories are on Patreon? A few now. How many? 6, I want to say. 7? I want to say 6. It's like short stories, not novella length, but really short stories, about 7 maybe. But they're only on Patreon, and you can only get them if you're on Patreon. So join up on Patreon. That's all me saying that. So you can join up on Patreon. So go join on Patreon. We have like really low tiers for almost every level, like $1, $5, $10. $1, $3, and $5. I mean, it's to make it affordable, and to create something special for the patrons who kind of go above and beyond the regular support. So please, I know you guys all support because you get the books, and you're here today, and you're in the MoB, and you guys are active. The Patreon stuff is just for those who want to help a little more. So go, and for those who do that, they get an extra story. That's it. So, but it's an exclusive story to Patreon. So go be a patron. It's awesome. The e-newsletter. I didn't release a newsletter this month because I will get to it because I've been crazy in the middle of several projects, but I will be releasing one in Feb. So probably the 2nd week of February, I'll be releasing one. 2nd or 3rd. 2nd is more kind of like where I try to fit it in. So there'll be some interesting stuff going on in that newsletter. So make sure you're signed up for the newsletter. You can go there by going to our website. Can you go to our website? Make sure everything is kosher over there. You go to our website and you sign up for the free books, and we get your email, and then you automatically put into the newsletter. Right? That's how it works. Website's looking. If you haven't visited the website, it is. Let me type it in: www.orlando.sanchez, right? Not Sanchez. Sanchez.com. 7. So we have 7 Patreon stories. Wow, that's pretty good. So if you go to this site, I'm gonna take off the. Go here, and just go check out our new website. It's actually looking really awesome. And good morning, new Facebook user. So if you want to join the newsletter, which is fairly active, I try to put things up. I try not to use it to spam readers, and it's a good size. It's about 5,000 people on the newsletter. So go to that site that's on the screen now, sign up, get your 3 ebooks that are free, completely free, and they're prequels to, so you got the Karashihan, which is the prequel to the Spiritual Warriors. You've got The Last Dance, which is the prequel to Sepia, and you got The Deepest Cut, which is the prequel to John Kane. I really got to get back to John Kane. Poor John, he's just waiting out there in the wings. Longer than Sepia, John Kane has been out there with Blur. Longer than Sepia. So you go to orlandosanchez.com and sign up, and you'll get 3 ebooks that are free. If you can't get the books, let me know. I can send them to you in another way. Hey, Mark, you made it. And then you'll get the newsletter, and I'll start. You'll get notified of stuff as it happens. I like the stories. So there's 7 stories, yeah, total. Thank you, Dolly. There are 7 stories, and they're all pretty fun. So I don't think I'm gonna develop any of those stories, but maybe. Like Rookie was good. Rookie was a lot of fun. This is why I don't work with rookies. And Jam Ambrosia was just very tongue-in-cheek. I like that. That little twist at the end was really funny. Let's see, what else? Oh, Peanut. Peanut made its way into the books because that's such a great character. You're going to see more of Peanut. But if you want to know a little bit more, I guess, about the origin of Peanut, her name is Peanut. Peanut. Her name is Peanut. But she's named Peanut. Dex said they call her Peanut. I don't know if I want to change the name from Peanut. I think Peanut's a great name for her. Yeah, it's cute. And I think when she gets older and becomes really dangerous and her name is Peanut, it's like facing Peaches. Oh, he's just a hellhound. What's his name? Peaches? Sure. Peanut's a lot of fun and made it into the Monty Strong books. So yeah, Peanut's when so how do I explain the convoluted route that this is? In the School of Battle Magic, Peanut's going to be one of the main protagonists because there's a lot that's going to be centered around her. So you're going to see a lot of her there. What is Jeanette saying? My mind palace must be one amazing place. Yeah, it's really populated. It's extremely populated. Sometimes it's a little crowded. So we'll get into that because I'll let you guys know what I'm doing for the next 2 months, which is something I've tried to stay away from, but I want to do it and see if I can do it. And I had a great little conversation with Dolly about if you just focus on one book, wouldn't it be faster? So we'll get into that in a moment. So follow us on BookBub. Just go to bookbub.com. You'll find me there. Look me up and just follow. The more people, I think we have, if you go to BookBub, I think we have like 300 people there following us. 3 something. So listen, there's like 1,500 people in the mob. Let's get more people into following these kind of ancillary sites. And let's just get the social proof, the word of mouth rolling. And let's just blow it out in every place that Monty Strong is. So BookBub, Binge Books is the same thing. Go to bingebooks.com. Find me there. Leave a fantastic, if not short, review of something you've read. And it's basically just growing the following, which is awesome. Growing the family of the mob. Jim says, thinking of names, maybe give bangers and mash girlfriends, slap and tickle. I don't think so. Any girlfriends they would get would have to be somewhat crazy and psychotic to go along with their plans. So I don't know about that. But I think it'd be fun. Yes, I know. So Stacy Stein is not feeling well. So this is a shout out to Stacy who's not feeling well. Thank you for at least listening in. I know you're not feeling at the top of your game today. So big shout out to you and the family, Stacy. And hopefully you get better very soon. Yeah, so the honey badger hasn't come to play yet. So let's discuss did we get everything? Yeah, BookBub, Binge Books, those are all the shout outs. Okay, so let's get into the meat of our show today because we know meat is life, right? All right, so I'm writing Lost Runes, which is the next Monty and Strong story. It comes right after Broken Magic. Makes most sense. If you read Broken Magics, you know why it's called Lost Runes, right? Nocturne Melody, which is the next Gray and Coda Night Warden story. which has been, I didn't want to do another sepia, but it has been a little bit of a gap between Shadow Strut and Nocturne Melody. So I kind of want to not go into sepia territory without like waiting 4 years. And that story is doing really well. I mean, I look forward to writing all the stories, but for some reason, Gray has a special place when I'm writing Gray. And what we call in the house Ariacot, which is a rose in a cauldron of thorns. I call it apricot because that's what but it's ARI, a rose in a cauldron. Yeah, Ariacot. So those are the initials because it's just too long to be saying a rose in a cauldron of thorns. So we call it Ariacot, but I call it apricot because that's what it looks like when you read it fast. I'm writing all 3 of these books simultaneously. If I showed you what I'm using to keep track of the word quotas, it looks like some crazy Excel sheet. Yeah, that could be an idea, using an Excel sheet. Maybe you can create an Excel sheet for me to keep track of when I'm writing the little word quotas. Because it looks like this. So I'm going to show it to Dolly first. Yes. So it looks like this. Can't even see it, jeez. Quick, yeah. So basically what I do is I just kind of track the goal for the day, the actual words written, and then the date. And I keep track of that. So I'm doing 3 books at the same time. So I start with Lost Rooms, then I go into Nocturne Melody. Lost Rooms because it's the easiest, it's Monty and Strong, and so that just flows right away, and it gets me kind of into the groove of writing for the day. Then I jump into Nocturne Melody because it takes a serious mind shift to get into Gray's story. But I've already been kind of primed after writing Monty and Simon. So shifting into Gray is a little darker, but it's easier after doing Monty and Simon. And then I do Ariacot, Rose in a Cauldron of Thorns. Jeez, it's hard to even say it. Because it's the least amount I have to work. And by that time, I'm in a different mood. After writing Gray, I need something a little lighter. And Ariacot is basically... it's not paranormal romance. Is it paranormal romance? Is it considered paranormal romance? It's urban fantasy romance, focusing on the urban fantasy. The romance component hasn't really been, what kind of has been introduced, right? Every time I write romantic parts, I cringe because I don't write romance. So like this whole part, that is snippet that I gave to the room where it's like she's looking into his honey-colored eyes and his voice. It hit all the right notes. I'm like, oh my, part of me is cringing as I'm writing it. So, yeah. Anthony, yeah. In Sanchezian logic, which is new, but girlfriends would be crazy powerful, for sure. Oh, is Rose in the M&S World? No, I wouldn't put her in the M&S World because it would just be too much. It's the potential for disaster is just too great. She's in her own world. If you notice, when I describe things, this body's called the Directorate. Dark Mages is one word. So it's a very different world in terms of the urban fantasy aspect. So yeah, healthy romance is hard. Yeah, it's gonna be healthy romance. It's more urban fantasy than romance. So it's urban fantasy with sprinklings of romance, as opposed to romance with sprinklings of urban fantasy. Because I don't think I can make that leap yet to go into heavy romance. So yeah. But I have Dolly reading it, and she gives me pointers on is it cringy enough for me? Because I know my cringe factor is high when I write romance, this romance at least. So my cringe factor is high. So I don't know if I'm getting it right or wrong, or if it's too heavy-handed, or if it's too over the top. But she's read romance, and she has a good background in it. So yeah, but I'm trying to make it so it's not a parody of romance, and it's not toxic romance. So it's more something that you want to read, and that's why it's not the focus. It's not the romance. The focus is the urban fantasy, but there's some romance kind of happening around it. No. I would, if you recall, I collaborated in the PPD books. I'm not going that route. I'm not going logs and romance. That's a little too over the top. This is gonna be romance that anyone can read. It'll have romance components, but it's not going to be over the top. And then a lot of it might even be fade to black, which is That way I don't get flagged as erotica, which is good, you know? So yeah, I think that's the best way. Again, my thing is writing urban fantasy. This is me trying something different and new. Not that it's new in existence, new for me. I'm gonna try putting some romance into the urban fantasy, and we'll see how it goes. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, and that'll be the only book written with urban fantasy. Huh? I don't know about that. So, but I'm not the judge. Stories that I think might be good might end up being bad, and stories that I think were horrible end up being good. Like Dolly telling me, "Yeah, this works." I'm like, the cringe factor. All I can say is that the cringe factor is high when I write A Rose and a Cauldron of Thorns. Even the title, I think Paige is calling it like a parody because it sounds like a romance, Yeah, feelings are hard and explosions are way, way easier. Trust me, they are. So writing feelings, I treat Val, I have daughters, so I kind of get an idea of where the interaction between her and Fen. I can write that. What's going to be hard is writing the interaction between her and what's going to be considered the romantic lead. So we'll see. But writing her as a daughter and her reaction and her attitude as a daughter to her guardian, which Fen is like her dad, her father, easy for me. How she's going to react with writing with interacting with Lewis. Lewis Holland is going to be the romantic antagonist. I don't know about that. That's going to be... Oh, I don't know. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, we'll see. But you guys will know because I'll be giving you guys snippets. Yeah. That's what I thought too, Paige. When I saw that it was like Sarah Moss. I'm trying not to parody her, but even the title, the cadence of the title sounds a lot like a Sarah Moss book. So I might have to change that up for the next book. I'm not changing it for this one, but I'll change it for the next book. Let's see. Jeanette says, one of the favorite romances you're rereading, while an LGBT genre has an amazing level of romance focusing on the... Yeah, and that's fine. I don't know if I could go that far because just the fact that I'm adding a romantic component to this story is really pushing the boundaries for me. But I'm gonna try and do it justice without making it a parody. If I'm gonna write parody, I'd write Bangers and Mash. That's my parody. I guess series. That would be the parody series. Is it the same regardless of genre? I don't know, Marie. I can't say it's the same regardless of genre. Like urban fantasy with romance in it is not the same thing as romantic writing. And one thing that I do know is that romantic readers are, one, they're voracious, and two, they expect certain tropes in their stories. And if you don't have those tropes in them, they're very vocal about it not being what they expected. So that's why I'm writing urban fantasy with romance, a dash of romance, as opposed to romance with a dash of urban fantasy. So bangers and mash with potential girlfriends. I think we definitely need more bangers and mash. I think that's key. That goes without saying. I think we could add love interest that would be like completely over the top because it's bangers and mash. So it would be awesome that way, Let's see. I don't know what there's a lot here from Jeanette. Come think of his phone's plugged in. Oh, there's a lot. Yeah, I see. Yeah, but it's a different kind of writing for sure. Not something that I'm going to attempt because I'm not that versed in romantic language. So yeah, I don't even do romance in life. You can ask Dolly. I'm the least romantic person. All right, but let's move on. So I'm taking on writing these 3 stories at once. So having the conversation with Dolly, she was making a very good argument, a very good point. She says, "Well, if you just focus on one book, wouldn't it come out faster, right?" And on one side, it's a very valid point, and I agree with her that if you focus on one book, it comes out faster. But I started really thinking about my process, and it probably would have come out around the same time. So what I'm actually doing is giving myself more work. I'm focusing on doing 3 books within the kind of the same time frame that one book would come out. I'm doing 3, and so also because I give her like, I guess the dailies. It's like if you watch a movie, you get dailies. Like you see what was shot that day. So I give her the dailies of the books, and it's really like giving her piecemeal. I give her like 1,000 words, 800 words, and sometimes in the past I've given her like 3,000 words. Like, so I get that the pace seems slow, but when I put all the stuff that I'm writing, all the 3 books that I'm writing, it still comes out to about 2,500 to 3,000 words a day. And it's a new thing for me. I want to try it this way to see if I can actually do it. One, so because it's good to kind of switch it up and do things differently, so you don't burn out and you don't get your brain melted. Which is why I have Nocturne Melody in between Lost Runes and Ariacot, because if I'm just writing Nocturne Melody, it takes my brain to a really dark place, you know. So I'm mixing it up, Lost Runes, because it's Monty and Simon. I can always write Monty and Simon. That's kind of like in my blood. Nocturne Melody, I can write it every so often, but it's good to have it balanced off Monty and Strong. And Erica, because it's a new one, and we're going to see how it goes. What is this Facebook user saying? I don't know your name, but it says, well, if the romance doesn't work out, it can meet in a timely end, and then it's just paranormal fantasy again. Exactly, yeah. Everything could blow up, and then, we're back to regular writing, you know? Oh, hi, Michelle. That who? Michelle who? Michelle Blue. Yes, Michelle. Definitely, I agree. I haven't seen a John Wayne romance in a long time, Chris, ever since I was a little boy. So yeah. Anthony says my favorite Kindle Vella fiction are mostly romance and erotica. It can work, especially when it's short like that, and or serial. That can work. I would imagine that prolific quality would be the holy grail of working author. Yes, Anthony. My goal, and I don't know if I will ever achieve it, which is why it's a great goal to have, is to surpass Isaac Asimov's amount of writing the way he would do it. So if you ever read the history of Asimov, how he would write, he would have, because it's back then before all the technology, he would have several typewriters around his house with different works in progress. And so when he'd do one story and then he felt, okay, I don't want to do this story anymore, he'd go to another typewriter and he'd work on another story. And then from that, he'd go to another typewriter and work on another story. And talk about prolific. I mean, he's not the most prolific author, but I think he had over 500 works between books and articles, because he was also a professor. So he was incredibly intelligent. And so he was always busy, he was always writing, and his brain was always going. And so that's a good goal. I want to kind of emulate that, because that's a great goal to have, and to be able to write 3 stories at once is kind of what I want to do. I used to do it where I would write 1 novel and a short story at the same time. So now I'm just pushing the envelope a little, and you guys let me know. But yeah, Asimov has some great articles that are not fiction, like Audrey's saying, the nonfiction. And when you read his nonfiction, you get a feeling for how intelligent he was. He was just so intelligent, and it made sense for him to kind of put that intelligence into science fiction and kind of push the envelope of what's accepted and what could be expected in terms of science fiction. So I can read, how many stories can I read at once? I think I could read 2, maybe 3 stories at once. I can go from book to book, but I usually like to just read 1 book at a time. So, and right now I'm reading, what am I reading now? Hold on, let me see, I'll tell you right now. I am reading, Rick Rubin. I'm reading The Creative Act, A Way of Being. So Rick Rubin's, if you don't know who Rick Rubin is, he's an awesome producer, music producer, and he has been moving more and more towards a bit more Zen kind of way of being. And so he wrote this book called The Creative Act. And when I read the preface, basically he says what I've been saying all along, that everyone is creative, everyone has a creative outlet, everyone has a creative expression, but it's a matter of tapping into that. So, excuse me, and then the book just goes through that, and it's a really, really great book. I'm gonna make sure Dolly gets it. We own it, so you have to make sure you get that. So, yeah. Right back at you, baby. All right, so Isaac Asimov, Paul Anderson, Robert Heinlein. I grew up with those. I grew up reading those, so it was awesome. And how many books to read at a time? I like to do 1, but when I'm writing, I've realized that I have to read books like what Rick Rubin, either writing craft books, because I still read those, or books on creativity. I'll read those while I'm writing. I tried reading fiction recently. I can't read fiction while I'm writing because it throws me off the story a little, not a lot, but a little, enough to make me notice it. So I'll read creative books. I'll read writing craft books. Chuck Wendig has some great writing craft books that they're short, quick comments, and then you get right back into whatever you need to do. But yeah, I trying 3 books at once. I don't recommend this if you're starting out. I don't because what happens to an author or a writer when they're starting out, if you flip from 3 books, you go from 1 book to 1 book to 1 book, you end up getting sidetracked. So it's a little hard, to go from book to book to book. And you end up writing 3 books, but you don't end up completing any of them. Because I tried it really early on when I was writing, about, I want to say 9-10 years ago. I don't recommend it in the beginning. Anthony asked a question: how do you keep the voices of other authors from keeping into your work? The only way you can really do that, Anthony, is to discover your own voice. And once you discover your own voice, it's very hard for other authors' voices to get into your work, because your voices, you have to be clear about your voice. And once you have your voice, it's hard for other people's writing to influence your writing to the degree where you're copying them. What could happen is that you could see some writing from another author and go, wow, that was really well written. But you won't emulate it. You'll appreciate it, but it won't be you saying, oh, I need to put that into my book. No, you'll just be like, hey, that was a great piece of writing there. Or, you'll go back and reread it again because it was done so well. But if you don't know your voice, and this happens to every writer in the beginning, you will sound like many other authors, because that's just the nature of writing. When you start, you'll sound like your favorite authors. And as you grow and keep writing, you start developing your own voice. And so, like in the beginning of my books, I would always say everything would coruscate, right? That was my favorite word. Everything coruscated. I love the word. I still love the word because I just love the way it sounds. But after a while, you get past it, and you start creating your own voice. It starts coming up, and you start finding your voice. And then so you won't need other authors in the sense of, how do I write this? But it's always good to read like amazing authors. Like, I'll read all these great authors just because it's great to read good writing, Let's see. As a reader, I sympathize. Yeah, I do. I totally get it. Once you find your own voice, it's easy to read others. It's easier. I find it easier to read others. But for me, the policy of not reading fiction while I'm writing is because I'll get caught up in what I'm reading, and then I won't write. So I have to write. I have to read something that doesn't distract me from the writing. Not so much the voices, but just the story. If it's a good story, and Dolly has seen me do it, I'll burn through the night and finish the book. And I'll like start it and then finish it, and then it's like, okay, now I haven't slept and I've been reading and my brain is tired, so the next day writing is a little rougher, That's why I can read nonfiction. I can read books on creativity. I can read books on craft, because it does make the writing easier. No, we're not all too old, but Marie, definitely not. A creeping argument. That's not a creeping argument now. Within the genre, let's see what Jim is saying. Different authors have different visions of mythological characters, and that's what makes it fun. I like different takes on what's the accepted mythos of things, and how a different author interprets certain mythologies, which is fantastic. I mean, you want to talk about something transforming. So we know Dracula's been around forever, right? Bram Stoker wrote Dracula. The character's been around forever. But then Anne Rice comes along and does Interview with a Vampire and completely transforms the character, what a vampire is, and revolutionizes the concept of vampires. And so that's an amazing thing in and of itself. And so it revitalizes this whole, and then there's vampires forever. And then you get vampires that shine, like in Twilight and things like that. But every author is allowed to take their idea and kind of give it their own particular bent, their own tweak, Welcome, Facebook user. Who's that Facebook user that's late? But, it's Renee. Welcome, Renee. I have to look over there because that way I can see it on Facebook. And then Nicolas Cage. Yeah, what is it? Renfield? Renfield is the lady who did this movie. I think he's Dracula. It looks like a really fun movie. And anything with Nicolas Cage, you have to take with a lot of like salt. It's like Nicolas Cage movies are. I think they're going to be their own genre at some point, right? But anything with Nicolas Cage is over the top. I think the last one that I didn't get to see is Nicolas Cage playing Nicolas Cage. He's with Pedro Pascal, and that looks like a fun movie. So, but you know, people, like I said, we're all creative, and people are going to take these characters and these ideas and these concepts and run with it and bring their own interpretations. Sometimes it's going to work, and sometimes it's not going to work, like Rings of Power. So, you know, yeah, vampire. When I saw the vampires that sparkled, I was taken aback. I was like, what the hell? But, you know, again, Stephanie Meyer, I believe, is the author of Twilight. I'm sure she's laughing all the way to the bank because she did really well with Twilight. So, you know, and so not only the books do well, the movies did well. So there you go. And I think the movie spawned the Grave thing, the S&M thing. It was fan fiction of Twilight. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what was the name of the movie? You guys know the movie that it was supposedly fan fiction of Twilight, had heavy S&M influence, and became a huge thing. So there you go. So Stephanie Meyer, I'm sure, is not complaining. Shades of Grey or something gray, something like that. Anyway, 50 Shades of Grey. 50 Shades of Grey. So, but that was fan fiction of Twilight, and then with a twist. So there you go. So I'm sure Stephanie Meyer's not complaining right now. Yes, 50 Shades of Grey, and welcome, Kathy. So, Kathy, I just want you to know, from like anytime I see your name, all I hear is Val Kilmer saying, "I'll be your Huckleberry." Just understand that anytime I see your name, that's what's happening in my head, Kathy. Okay? All right, let's see. Jeanette says vampires do not sparkle. Well, in Twilight's world, they do. The Gary Oldman Dracula was actually really good. I saw that. I really enjoyed that one, Audrey. That was really well done. I like that one. Buffy. I didn't really grow up. I didn't really watch Buffy, but I think Dahlia watched Buffy. How was Buffy? Did you enjoy Buffy? But you watched some. Buffy was good. Buffy had a huge following when it was out, when it was popular. Anthony says 50 Shades of Lukewarm. I don't know. I don't know what that means, but okay. Non-conceptual or non-consensual? Those are two different things, Jeanette. Yeah. So yeah, it was 50 Shades of Grey, and again, that started as fan fiction from Stephanie Meyer's Twilight, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, you just saw him shoot Johnny. Did you watch Tombstone? I was gonna say Tomb Yards, because all I have in my head when things start with Tomb is Tomb Yards. Oh, I like Leslie Nielsen. Leslie Nielsen was so brilliant in what he did. Yes, who's that? Michelle? Yeah, Michelle. I think that there's so much raw material when it comes to the different pantheons that so many authors get stuck on the usual, the Greek and the Roman pantheons, but there are many pantheons out there that are great material for writers to use in their books. So I like when books have different pantheons. Someone who did that really well was Kevin Hearn, but even though he stuck mostly to the Celtic pantheon, but he had gods from other pantheons, and I try to do that in the stories because you don't want to stick to just one pantheon. You kind of want to have different pantheons, you know. Yeah, I definitely agree, Anthony. It definitely is a cautionary tale. You know, Jim, I've never seen Leslie Nielsen in anything straight. Everything I've seen him in has been comedy. Starting from, well, he was in the Airplane movies. I remember that. But I don't remember seeing him in anything straight. It would be weird for me to see him in something playing a straight actor. He's always been comedic. Callie, yeah. Callie's I've used Callie. I've used Ursula gets her hammer from a Finnish god of thunder. So there's that. You've got the typical Hades, and but you also got the Morrigan. So I try to mix in pantheons, because that way it makes it interesting and it gives you more to work with. And what's more fun than having gods from different pantheons interacting? Police Squad. I don't know if it was a documentary though. Oh, Jim, that must have been early in his acting career when he was doing westerns. Audrey, I think Kevin Hurd did that already with Coyote and Loki, and did a few Trickster Gods all together. Who's the Facebook user that's reading something with Slavic gods? Yeah, I would imagine that would be fun. Reading something with Slavic gods in it. American Gods was good. I like that. That was a gaming book, wasn't it? Up here, it's already disappearing. Right here. What was between Jim and Jeanette? Oh, Michelle. Okay. Yeah, American Gods was a great. They didn't really do justice to it when it came to the screen, right? Even though I like Ian McShane, but American Gods was a great story with all the different gods, different pantheons all mixed together. But Gaiman writes really well, so it's to be expected, you know? I read the book. I enjoyed the book much more than the show. I even got a subscription to Stars to see American Gods, and that lasted like a few episodes, and I was like, I'm done. I can't. It's not working for me. The casting was okay. It could have been better, but it didn't really hold true to the book. And then they went in a different direction. And when they do that, it's like Rings of Power all over again. So, if you can't tell, as I'm traumatized by Rings of Power, as a diehard Lord of the Ring reader, Rings of Power just isn't doing it for me. I'm so sorry, but no. I would love to use a Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster as the main protagonist to stomp out the old guards. Yeah. Maybe. You should always write the story and see what happens. So that's currently what I'm doing. I'm writing the 3 stories at once and see how that goes. I think that could work. Pastafarians. That would be a good way to, yeah, definitely. And they could eat pasta in the meantime. Cook pasta, eat pasta, wear pasta. There you go. All right, so what else do we have? Oh, we have questions coming up. Let's do the questions. Wait, before we get to the questions, we don't have links, but we're just going to do our general promotion of all our indie authors. So let's see. If I miss anyone, you guys know the usual suspects by now. So don't forget to look up and see what John Logson's doing, what Ben Zackheim's doing, Stephanie Fox, Alex Steele, Nazi Noor, Chris Chrisman. Who else we got? Oh, there's got to be more indie authors. Rick Gualtieri, Noah. You guys, our own Noah. I thought you said no one. No. Noah. Let's see who else. If I'm missing any authors that we usually kind of promote, John Corwin. Let's see. You guys, let me know, or just put it in the comments because we. So here's the thing: we as the MoB family, part of our mission, and one of the reasons why we are the way we are is because we support our indie authors. It's kind of an unspoken thing, right? You know, but it's a really important part of who we are as a group. So we support our indie authors. We promote them when we can. We got Brad Magnarella in there. William Massa is in there too. So there are I know a lot of indie authors who don't get as much airtime, and we're gonna do our part to make sure that people hear about them, or at least, you know, read their stuff. Nazi Noor, I already mentioned Jeanette, but yeah, Nazi Noor's stuff. Like a lot of these people I've met at 20 books, 50K, which I don't know if I'm returning ever again because, you know, Vegas and traveling and, you know, but a lot of them I know independent of going to a conference. So which group is Constantine? Which group? Who is that, an author or is that the story? Because the story Constantine was excellent. But which group are you talking about, Jim? Nelson Chereta? Is that how, am I pronouncing the name right? Well, if not, then look, Nelson Chereta. So get his stuff too. Let's see who else. Benedict Jacta is another great author. There are a few. I've recently been reading Will White, Wight, excellent, the Cradle series. Oh, I don't know Constantine as an author. If you have a whole name, because Constantine, unless he's so famous, he only has one name, like Fabio. But can we get the full name, Jim? Of course, Marie, who would you like to promote? Put it in the comments. We have no issues with promoting authors. We like to promote authors here. So please do, Marie. And so, in regards to using different gods and pantheons, I'm all for it. I have a few gods I'm going to be introducing later on. When we get to Entropy and Archmage, there's definitely some gods coming up that are going to be kind of scary. And we're going to reveal a little bit more of Hades' endgame, the things that he's been kind of doing, from giving Simon peaches to giving Gray the blade that has Izanami in it. So, yeah. Yes, Chris, Marie, you may name an author. Please do. Yes. All right, so, oh my God, Stormblood. The audiobook on this is taking so long. It's not Kevin's fault, so please don't harass Kevin. It's mostly on our end. We've been doing logistics stuff. If you're an author, you know about kind of some of the things that's happening with Audible and how they're treating their authors. So, been trying to look into different alternatives, but it's really hard because Audible and ACX is the 800-pound gorilla, just like Amazon, So, looking at options, trying to look into and see what we can do. But Stormblood is scheduled to come out this month, so that'll be good to have and read the audios. Let's see, N.M. Thorne, R.L. King also is very good. M.M. Crumley is doing something with Doc Holliday. So, there's a lot of authors out there that there's no shortage of authors, okay? Let's see, Nevin Iliev. Everybody loves large chess series. Okay. That's an interesting series. Yeah, and the thing about Audible, unfortunately, from what I'm doing the research about Audible, is that they're treating the authors right now. I think they reduced the prices on all the audiobooks just because they could, because the authors don't control the prices of the audiobooks. So they've been doing some kind of not too great things with the authors. So a lot of authors are leaving Audible ACX. They're looking around for other places. Right now we have everything on ACX because it's convenient for us. But again, we're looking into options. We'll see what happens. Percival Constantine. So that's another author. What does he write, Jim? If you could share that with us. If we could find a way to get Kevin to do the books directly without having to put it on ACX, and we can put it out somewhere, that's something we need to look into. And just put the books up on our website. So we're looking into options, guys. Yes, Anthony. But the thing is that they're so big that it's very hard for the FTC to go after a company like Amazon. It's like what happens with Microsoft. Anytime they try to do an antitrust thing or try to break them up or they accuse them of being a monopoly, they're so large. It's a behemoth. It's hard to come after them and to actually get anything to happen. The Luther Cross series, excellent. So please look, guys, there's stuff to read. I mean, you got Constantine, you got M.M. Crumley. Let's see, Slavic Pantheon, Elena Sobol. Haven't read any of their books, but she accepted your friend request. A very cool author that accepts your friend request. Reducing what they pay. This is what's happening with the audiobooks. They're reducing what they pay. They allow returns, and so the authors end up losing out. And people can read, return, and get a refund, so the author loses. It's hard. Yes, Paige, I hear they're targeting Google right now. I don't know how successful that's going to be because Google's another one that's huge. So we'll see. Tech companies are kind of under the spotlight right now, but that seems to happen in phases. Like they get a little bit of attention, the government kind of wants to do something, and then they kind of move away from it. So we'll see what happens. Good morning, Wendy. Welcome. All right. I think it's time we can go to the questions. So I'm going to go to the questions. The feed is still up on the other computer. The Dolly's looking at. If anything strikes your eyeballs, let me know. Questions. All right, here we go. This is for episode 86. Yes, Marie is asking, why is everyone questioning Monty's fashion sense? I don't think anyone's questioning Monty's fashion sense. I think what happened is that Monty was wearing jeans on one of the covers, and people started wondering what was going on. The covers, it's not that they're independent from the stories, but the cover artists like to take some liberties with the clothing. But I've always told them that Monty is dressed smartly and kind of in a suit. Every so often they put him in jeans, and he still looks good in jeans. So I let it go. I don't make a big fuss about it because Deranged Doctor Design is awesome as a designer. So I let them have their leeway. If they want to put Monty in jeans, and they have put him in jeans on several covers. If you look, I'm looking right now, I can see him in jeans in the Golem, and there's a few other covers where he's in jeans, and he still looks awesome because he's doing his magic thing. And the same thing with Simon he's usually in a jacket, but he has been dressed nicely. And in Blood Lessons, I think he's wearing a tie, and Walking the Razor, I think he's wearing something really, cool. So it varies on what the designers want to do, but I don't think anyone's questioning his fashion sense. In every book, he's very fashion conscious. So it is what it is. I mean, I like to have fun with it, and I know the designers like to have fun with it. And one of the things that I've always told the designers at DDD is I'll give them loose parameters because at this point, they're working on 19. They've done 19 covers, actually a lot more than 19 covers. But I give them loose parameters, and I tell them this is what the story is about, and then I kind of give them free reign to do what they want to do. I kind of tell them what I want to see in the background. They pick the colors, they pick the poses. They clearly they don't believe that Monty should ever have a haircut. So they're doing really well in terms of that. I'm not going to mess with something that's not broken. The covers for Monty and Strong are phenomenal. So I'll let them do what they want to do with those covers in terms of how they want to dress Monty and Simon. And I think in Lost Runes, Simon is the one that looks very kind of upscale, which is pretty. I think that's a nice difference. That for one of the few times Simon looks dressed up and Monty looks a little informal. So that's pretty fun. There's a question? Go ahead.
From Anthony. So, dumb question. What is the feasibility of creating an authors guild /union?
I think that already exists, Anthony, the Authors Guild /union. I think it's already been formed. It's a matter of joining it. But from what I understand from my experience and from other authors who've joined it, they're not very effective in certain things. So in a lot of cases, they have their hands tied. It's better to join, again, this is just opinion, the Science Fiction Writers Association, because they seem to have a lot more weight behind them. And when they want to effect change, the SFWA has some heavy-duty lawyers that they can kind of activate and get things done. Authors Guild has had a lot of kind of baggage and we want to say sketchy practices in the past. So it's kind of diminished their standing in the community as much. SFWA, whenever there's an issue, a lot of authors go to them and they get their lawyers on the case and things start changing. Are they large enough or relevant enough to challenge Amazon and this stuff? They're the ones who started bringing the awareness of what's happening with Audible. So they have some weight behind them, but to go up against a company like Amazon or a big company like that, it's hard. It's hard. And you have to have a lot. It's even more than a union. You have to have basically a movement, a shift go through the author community. It's tough. We'll see. Next questions. Thank you, Marie, for that question. Just don't feel bad. No one's questioning Monty's fashion sense. He has impeccable fashion sense. He's a Montague and he's a mage. That's just the way it is. Audrey asked, and thank you for the question, worst college course you ever took and why? Philosophy, because when I was in college, I thought I knew more about philosophy than the professor, because I had read so many books on philosophy and we were constantly butting heads. So it wasn't, I don't know if it was the worst college course, it was the most contentious college course for me because I wouldn't, philosophy is something you could and should discuss, almost debate even, right? And this professor was having none of that. And so I still got an A though, but it wasn't a fun course for me. I would go into that course preparing for battle because I knew he was going to say something I disagreed with. Then I was going to say something that he disagreed with, and we basically have it out in class. So I don't know if anyone else learned anything in that class, but I know I had a lot of battles in that class with that professor. So I don't know if it's the worst, but it was the most contentious for sure. This is a question for Dolly. Dolly, have you ever had a paranormal experience?
Well, I don't know if this counts, but it was Christmas Eve. I had the three kids in the car.
Okay.
I had the three kids in the car, and they wanted to go to the mall to buy some gifts, and I just wanted to go home.
What a surprise.
But, I felt bad, so I entered the address into the GPS because we were somewhere where I had not been at the starting point. And we started on the route, and I had a feeling that that was just a bad idea, that something was going to happen. And indeed, it did, and we got hit from behind.
Rear-ended.
Rear-ended.
Yeah. So she didn't listen to her intuition. So that's something pretty paranormal. That happens to all of us. I think we all get those gut feelings, and then we don't listen, and then something happens, and then we go, I should have listened to my gut. So I would consider that to be a paranormal experience.
I haven't seen ghosts.
No,
aliens,
no ghosts, no aliens.
No.
So not that exciting. Nothing that exciting. You're waiting. Oh, okay. Sure. All right, next question. Is there one specific, Orlando, this is for me. Is there one specific issue that will cause you to stop reading a book? For example, a main character that is too stupid to live. Well, I stopped reading. I even forgot what it was now. The Conrad something books, where the guy started advertising other books inside the main story. No, that one I stopped too, but that was because it was just, oh my God. No, the one that really, really jarred me was the one that said, if you want to know more about the story, you got to go read this book in the middle of the story. So if an author starts advertising other books inside the story that you're reading, if this author is advertising other books he's written for you to get more of the story in the story that he's currently writing, that's going to stop me as a reader. It is. It's just the way I'm going to. It's immediately stop. I'm done. I was in the middle of the story and it was getting interesting, and I was like, yeah, I'm done. Nah. Because he did it once, I said, okay, I get it. You can make references to other things, right? Did it twice. I was like, okay, this is becoming an issue. He did it like 2 more times. I was like, okay, no, I can't do this. Yeah, he said, if you want to know more about the story, you've got to read such and such and such. In the story. No, in the story, as the narrator. Like, come on, really? Put it as a footnote. No, not in parentheses. As this is the story, and this is what this character did. But if you want to know more about what this character did, you'd have to read such and such and such. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? You know how I am with commercials, right? I pay extra on YouTube and other channels to avoid commercials. Those just came across as commercials to me, and I don't like commercials. So I stopped reading. I don't even remember the name of the book anymore. It was that bad. Let me see. I'll tell you right now. We're not bad-mouthing the author, all right, guys? We're not bad-mouthing the author. I'm just telling you, this is what happens in that story. Okay. No, really? Awesome. It's the Conrad Clark novels by Mark Hayden. Conrad Clark novels by Mark Hayden. If you don't mind that kind of thing, they're really good stories. A little slow in the beginning, but they were picking up, and then they started having commercials. So, and he's written a lot, and the stories seem to be interlocked, and they're related. But it started grating on my nerves. So that is one specific issue that will get me to stop reading a book, Audrey, for sure. Thank you so much for the questions. Let's see. Robert Junker says, Dread Warlock? Yes, Dread Warlock this year. I have to get back to the Blackjacks. So definitely Dread Warlock this year, Robert. Scarlett says she'll get back to me, but she never got back to me. She just gave me an emoji. I'm like, So I don't think Scarlett's here. So that's it for the questions. Awesome. Thank you so much for the questions, guys. I'm back. Okay. I have to scroll up. How much up? Oh boy. All right, here. I buy, I pay my policy. Yes. Andely has his name with a bunch. Yeah, but those. What Andely is doing. Here's what Andely did. What Michael did, and I know him personally. What he did was he wrote his books, and then he started getting into publishing books. And what he does as the publisher, in many cases co-author, is he's doing collaborations or he's promoting other authors. So it's very different from what was happening in the Mark Hayden book. He's not promoting other authors within his stories. He's just putting his name on the cover because he's promoting them, and he's allowing his readership access to maybe a new author who doesn't have a large readership. Now, because his name is on the cover, they get to be exposed to a new author. So Michael's acting more as a publisher than just an author in those cases. Jeanette says Monty's backside in jeans is a gift that keeps on giving. There you go. Yep. Major seems to have a particular look. I think so. Jim, yeah. Anthony says, let's see, I would love to have an M&S Pinterest page showing off the vehicles, the clothes, and the furniture. That would be an extensive page because there's a lot, Anthony. At this point, there's a lot. Says Piero would be proud. I think Piero would be proud because Monty knows how to pull it off really well. Try hurting authors. It's like cats, but with cutting words. Yes, it's very true. I didn't realize there's a readers union, Marie. Send me a link. I'd like to see what it is. Yes, Chris, the SFWA, Science Fiction Writers of America, I believe is what that stands for. The SFWA has been around for a long, long time. I want to say 70 years, if not longer. So, yeah, but they all, like Jim is saying, some of them have the issues too, like with the Hugo and the Nebula Awards and the whole diversity thing. They were having the whole thing. Every group has their issues. At one point, the romance group, Romance Writers of America, RWA, was having issues with their stuff too. So it's like that, you know? When the SWA, they do activate the lawyers. It's like, okay, let's implement the lawyers and go, you know? You can discuss what philosophers said. You can't say that. Yes, and Jim, that's what I was getting a lot of, that this way is right. And philosophy is not a matter of right and wrong in many cases. For us, the whole point of philosophy is that it's a way of thinking. It's not this way is right, this way is wrong, you know? So that was one of the places where me and that professor were butting heads. Sanchezian logic, yeah. So I think I gave you the title, The King's Watch series by Mark Hayden, or the Conrad Clark series novels by Mark Hayden. Great writer. He writes well. It's just that whole part of putting other books inside the book. Look, I was reading recently. If you're gonna do it, this is how you do it, okay? And I'm not blowing my own horn here. I'm just saying this is one of the ways you can do it. I was recently reading Shadow Strut, right, which is the second Night Warden book. And there were incidences in there that pointed to the Mage Killer, which is the second Division 13 story. Now, you can read either one independently and it doesn't impact your story at all. You don't lose anything. But if you happen to read the Mage Killer and then you go and you end up and you read Shadow Strut, you go, whoa, oh, these things, this implies, and they're connected. And that's the way I think it should be done. But if I'm writing the Mage Killer and I say, well, if you want to know more about this, you should read Shadow Strut. That's gonna come across as cheesy and like, ugh, it's cringy to me. I wouldn't do that, you know? Yeah, Jim, I've had authors put M&S references in other books, but every time they've done it, they've asked me and they've kind of like let me know. And in that regard, it's very much kind of like a point of pride, like, hey, M&S made an appearance in this book, or M&S, the cameos, or they made references to the stories, and that's always fun. But that's not saying, hey, you need to go read M&S. I would stop an author if they said, I'm going to put something for M&S in my book and tell people to go read it. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't let them do that because that comes across as you're going to lose readers for that, you know? Well, I didn't realize that existed, Jim. Kindle Unlimited series where you have to pay to get the climax. I didn't know that was a thing. That would stop me, yeah. Partner betrayal being one, yeah. Too much purple prose. I haven't really come across that too much. And non-consensual being main characters. Well, it depends on what you're reading, but yeah. An ad read, yeah. Who is that? The ad read in the book? I didn't think that was possible. Huh? Oh, hey Tito. He's in the. I thought you said he was here. He's here. Tito. Tito's my son. The other big O, Orlando. Yes, it is possible, Tito, for sure. This is Stand the Man, true believers. If you want to know what the hell happened, yeah. But see, that's in comics, and that's expected in comics because it's a serial thing, you know? Member of the MMMS. I don't know what that is, but it sounds interesting. Oh, okay. We need an M&S wiki. You know, Paige, I totally agree. Somebody was working on it. I think it was Darren. Huh? No, but Jeanette's not doing it. So, but yeah, I mean, ask Jeanette how extensive it is because it's a lot of information, Paige, to kind of. Oh, she said it. Yeah, 120 characters. Even I don't know. 120 characters. I'm like, huh? How can it be that many characters? It is. It is. It's that and more. When he says it's a cheap and sleazy commercial, that's the word I'm looking for. Sleazy. It comes across as sleazy, and that bothers me. Cameos are for me are acceptable. You want to have cameos because they're kind of fun. And if you have a character that's well known in another book, it kind of makes it fun. It's like a team up. Like when I was a young boy reading the Marvel team ups, and you'd have characters from one comic make an appearance in another comic in both Marvel and DC. Those are fun. Sleazy commercials, it comes across as a used car salesman kind of thing, where if you want to continue reading this, you want to find out what more happened, go read this over here. Not so much. Let's not do that. So I kind of advise any author against doing that in their stories because it comes across as forced selling, and you don't want to do that with your readers. It just comes across as you don't need to resort to that. Write well, write the best story that you can write. And trust me, people will read your stories. They will. You don't have to force it. Shout outs in the M&S include the Chicago Wizard, Dresden, right? Yeah, and actually, I had spoken to Jim Butcher before doing that, so that was why I was able to do it. Because again, I wouldn't do that without permission from the author. The not to Sir Terry, but it's Sir Terry. How could you? Everything that I write that's somewhat funny or humorous is a nod to Sir Terry. Something wicked this way comes as in. There's a lot of nods to different things because we're a product of what we read and what we grew up watching. So it's there. Any tech assist I can help, I run 2 so far. All right, awesome. Okay, well, you should speak to Jeanette Page and see if you guys can kind of have a meeting of the minds and see how that could work. I'm all for Easter eggs. Easter eggs are very different from commercials. Easter eggs, to me, and I think I've been doing that since the first book, Easter eggs are having the knowledge of, having inside knowledge of something. Like if you're a Star Wars fan or a Star Trek, if you're a Trekkie and you know certain things that only Trekkies would know, and then you see it in a book or in another medium, you're going to be like, oh, look, yep, they really made a reference to that. That's different from having a commercial. That's just paying homage to something, that only certain, it's insider knowledge that if you grew up doing this or you grew up watching this, then you would know what I'm talking about. But if not, then you would just read on and enjoy the story, but you wouldn't know like the behind the scenes of that comic. So it's like if you didn't know who Harry Dresden was, you wouldn't know that he has a wiki skull. You wouldn't know who Bob was. So it's things like that. But if you know who Harry Dresden is, and if you read the books by Jim Butcher, then you would understand that I'm referring to Bob. So it's pop culture knowledge that's not commercials. It's really like Wendy is saying, pop culture knowledge, not commercial, not common knowledge either. It's usually very select knowledge that only a few people would know if they know what you're referring to, So if you're going to write Easter eggs, first make sure your Easter egg is right, because if you write an Easter egg that's wrong, someone's going to correct you on it. And use them sparingly, and make sure that they don't write the Easter egg for the sake of writing the Easter egg. Make sure that it makes sense within the story. If a character's going to say something, make sure it makes sense. So another thing that I do in the stories is I like to use the Shakespeare quotes between Monty and Simon, and they always say, "Did you just bard me?" Things like that. That's just something particular to them too, that they banter that way. but I'm using Shakespeare. So it's like, if you know Shakespeare, you know what they're saying from what play, then it becomes something that means a little bit more to you. So things like that. Those are Easter eggs that are fun, And if you know it, if you know the relevance and you know the point of reference, it deepens your experience as a reader, which is what I like. So, when I read something and I come across an Easter egg, I'm like, oh, no, he did it. And, it makes it fun, like you discovered it. So, yeah, I think Anthony has it right. Easter eggs are hugs from the author for loving the genre. I think, most of the authors, most of the writers are huge nerds and geeks, just like their readers. And so it's sharing something that we have in common. Like if I make a Star Wars reference, I'm letting you know I grew up watching Star Wars too and loving the movies. Or a Star Trek reference, I used to watch Star Trek every Wednesday at 8 something. I would sit in front of the TV. It was the only show I was allowed to stay up late for Wednesday nights into like 9:30. I think it was 8:30 to 9. It was in a 1-hour show. And it was the only show I was allowed to watch as a child. I'm talking now, it's like maybe 4, 5, because it came out in 1969 and then they played it had a few years. But I was allowed to stay up and watch that one. And then in syndication, I watched all the episodes, and I would go to cons, and meet Star Trek actors. So I was a huge Trekkie. I'm still a huge Trekkie. So it's going to come across in the writing. And I like the fact that I have Simon as a Star Wars geek and Monty as a Star Trek, and I can play off both of them. So that's the fun thing about having Easter eggs in a story. Okay, so we're almost done, right? It's almost good. Do you have any questions? Did I miss any questions? Does anyone have any questions before we end there? I got a minute. If you have a question you want to ask that you didn't get to put into the question post, this is the moment to ask it, because we're going to be closing, and then the next one is going to be, February the 10th. Jeez, this year's already flying by. Wow. I totally agree, Wendy. Every thought process, it just matters what you're immersed in your life. Things will come up to you in the form of Easter eggs. This is the way it happens sometimes. You're very welcome, Audrey. Thank you so much for the question. All of you submitted questions. Thank you so much. And thank you, Audrey, for your questions. They're always awesome. Thank you. I really do appreciate them. As does Dolly. She really likes the questions. She's like, no one asks her questions. So, I won't say no one, but some. I saw someone say the 10. Hi, Rebecca. The 10 this year. Yes, it would be a story. The first story appears this year because it's a short story. So it would be appearing. Short story, novella, kind of like that, Will the Super Secret Project get published on February 14th? No, it gets published. It gets published in March, near the end of March. Who's telling me thanks for a great time? Is that Michelle? Mary Beth. Hi, Mary Beth. Thank you for being here and dropping in and saying hello. Let's see. Vehicles. Jeez, there's so many vehicles. If I had to, I think there's more vehicles. There's going to be a Warlord vehicle. There's some vehicles that. Can you tell I like old vehicles? Because, wow. I'm looking at this list. You got the first GOAT, then Ken's motorcycle, which is the Cost, which is a beautiful motorcycle. The Range Rover Veloz, the Eliminator, the Cougar Eliminator, TK's Ride, Strix, Renee's Plane. That's a nice plane. The Camaro, which is the Beast. The Magnus, the Duesenberg. There's so many amazing vehicles. The Dark Goat. There's so many. Oh, jeez. There's still more to that. You're missing a few there. Don't forget the Mobula, or the Mobula, which is the boat that got shredded. There's a few more. Yeah, if you Jeanette and Paige, you guys need to meeting of the minds, get together, and who's leaving? Bye, Facebook user. Who's that? Oh, bye, Patricia. Trisha, bye, Trisha. If you're still there. A cursed Edsel and a hellish Hugo. No, for that I just create the AMC Pacer, Anthony. We're gonna give him a cursed vehicle. It would be an AMC Pacer. And don't forget there's that one vehicle that Cecil gave them in the UK that was just horrible after they blew up the Urus, the Lamborghini Urus. Cecil gave them some horrible little car that was like vengeance for destroying the Lamborghini. So yeah, Goblin Gremlin. That's like the same thing as the AMC Pacer, the Gremlin, or a Fiat Panda. Yeah, horrible vehicles. You guys are so mean. Horrible, horrible vehicles. All right, guys, we're gonna leave. It's time to go, unfortunately, because if you leave it up to me, we'd be here all day, and I would enjoy every minute of it. But I want you guys start first. Oh, Pinto, that's just torture. Who wrote a Pinto? Rebecca. That's just so bad. A Pinto. I want you guys to have a great weekend. I want to thank you all for being here today and hanging out. And I always say one of my greatest goals would be to have everyone in the mob just hang out one day together. Bring coffee, bring tea, whatever it is you like to drink, and we can just hang out and talk, you know? Take care, Tito. It was great seeing you here. It's awesome to have you here. You got to show your name so I can have some deja vu seeing your name as you pop up, you know? Thank you for being here, guys. Thank you for a fantastic show. It's always an awesome show. You guys show up, and we get to talk, and we get to discuss, and get to drink some coffee. And I just want you guys to have a great weekend. Stay safe. Enjoy this wonderful weather we're having. I think it's like 40-something degrees out now. Let me see. Hold on. It is currently 46 degrees in New York City at the end of January, when it's usually like frigid. So enjoy the weather. Be safe. And above all, be uncommon. Bye, guys.